So anyway, Permasol Blue and Paynes Grey. Um, there's a lighter color here that was actually cobalt blue, which I adore cobalt. It's just a straight up blue. It's fantastic. It doesn't like being mixed with whites too much. You really lose a lot of the blue to it. But I did some testing, and then of course this little vignette of the painting just to get a flavor of the image that we're going to have with the reds and yellows that I'm going to use. So I grabbed for the flames cadmium or whoop, put it actually in the shot here. Cadmium yellow light, a little cadmium orange, and we're going to use a little cadmium pale yellow, which I know I'm testing some different lighting here. And hey, you're hosting me. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate that. Thank you. Um, and I've got a few others, of course, my titanium white, which I end up using a lot of, and I have a couple of others. I'll pull them out as I go, but these are going to be the main ones today. We're going to start on the background and work our way forward uh, with just a quick stop in the middle to get the ship itself laid out on the page. So yeah, let me go and set those aside. And again, casein is a wonderful medium to work in. It's water-based. Casein is a milk protein. It's one of the oldest paints used for illustration for a long time. And today we're going to work on a Gesso'd Masonite boards. These boards were made by the same people that made the paint, Richeson. And hang on a second, I got a little setting here on my camera. There we go. Perfect. And really what they are, it's just a Masonite board, very simple, with a nice beveled edge, and they pre-treat it on the front with gesso, so it takes paint very well. And the one I'm going to use today is a gray background gesso. Let me set these aside. Gesso'd surface, and I thought, you know, the gray would be kind of fun to start with, just to give us something that's just not white. It's great using white as a background, but it's kind of fun to start with something that's mid-range. And since we're going to be doing blues, I thought this gray would work out really nicely since it's kind of a cool color to work with, and it'll work nicely with the blues. I've already taken a moment to sketch in the ship itself with some pencil. I've got a planet in the background here, an area for the ship itself, and I've left this very loose. I didn't do a full technical drawing at all. I'm just kind of giving myself some reference lines to work with, and a spot for the rooster tail off the back here. So I just want to kind of come in and get some paint down these places where the ship's going to be. And I'm just watering it down, a little bit of water here. We're going to have sort of a canard, not a canard, I have a little module off the bottom. And this is going to be filled in with a lot of really fun details. So I'm not going to worry too much about the shape itself at the moment. Just want to get some, there we go. Get some color down on the board. And this light blue is really just going to be for the highlight parts of the ship. I'll be adding white more to it later, but for right now, and I am trying to pay attention to the perspective. It's going to be kind of moving away from us, sort of like it is in the Berkey painting. But I just want to get the form in there so I know exactly kind of where it is. And since I use some more pieces for it, a wet palette is a small container that holds your paint with a sponge on the bottom. It's like a tray, and it's probably going to be perfect for casein. It works great with acrylics. It keeps your paint wet longer. Cool. All right, so I got some highlights in there. I got some of this. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. I just want this to be, I just want to get in some shapes as I go here. A little bit of just a little bit of the dark straight on Permasol, just because I've got this nice wet paint on here, and I'm going to use this as my kind of indicate some shadow zones of some areas. Let the paint just kind of smear on its own. This will help us do some really fun shapes later. This back end is kind of it's the business end. We're going to have some big crazy engines on it as we go, so a little bit of darker back there. All right, and this is just reference. This is basically taking my pencil drawing, kind of giving myself some reference to work with as I proceed to deal with. So I'm going to very quickly, before I go too far, add in just a hint of where these are. So here's one planet. I just want a little round. I can deal with painting them in later. Here's another round up here. These are little, maybe not planets. These might be moons. Maybe this is all part of a big system of planets here. So yay! And it's okay if these aren't perfectly round right now. I'm doing this on the fly, and we're going to be painting around them anyway. So I just want to know where the corners are, and same with the big planet. I want to do some fun stuff with this planet. I'm gonna treat the large planet as a sort of Earth-like. That was in the John Berkey image itself, and I'm just going to kind of put in some. I don't want to completely. You can see here with the Casein, it covers this gray pretty hardcore, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I mixed in some titanium white with it. So, yeah, we'll just put. And the working time on Casein is pretty quick. Ah, look at that! It just went right over my planet. Well, we'll put him in post. Yeah. So now, and then I'm going to go for Paynes Grey. Paynes Grey is gorgeous. It's a very dark blue gray. I like it as a somewhat neutral dark, and it has become one of my favorites over the years. It's a very good mixing paint. You kind of turn the edge of your brush and you get a nice opportunity to do a straight line there. And I'm just kind of letting the brush strokes do their thing. I don't mind if they're in, because it'll add interest in the painting as we go. And you start getting some nice dreamlike effects going. So I'm going to turn this again so I can get a little angle on this side of the painting. Oh, I really went thick on this paint. That's awesome. Really cool. We're going to fill this in a bit. I might go in with some black in here, just in a couple of areas. And the back of our spaceship here. Get some of that. There we go. And this is still just kind of our first pass at it. So I'm going to go back to my filbert, though, and I'm going to just bring in some of this lighter color into the rest. And I'll even add some out here. Maybe this is a Magellanic cloud of some kind. And this will be in while the paint's wet. Here. There we go. And I'm going to go for this darker color, but I want to thin it down a little bit more. Just kind of come in over my planet. Ah, too thick. That's all right. Oh no. It's okay. I think the paint underneath it wasn't quite dry enough for me to do this. That's okay. This will work. Happy accidents. Remember, happy accidents. On it. It's just going to be wet. I'm going to take this across here and see if I can't pull some of this off and try to render this out as a sphere. Getting into the front of the ship there. It's a little long down below, so let me cut that off. There we go. So I'm just going to dance in a few bits of white here to indicate clouds. I can see where my spaceship ends and the planet begins, and I'm okay with that. We're going to refine that as we go, but this will help. This will help sell it as a planet. I'm just going to grab some white straight up. There we go. I like working with the paint when it has a little bit of it's a little wet, little not quite dried all the way, because as you're going, you're putting paint down, but you're also picking it up. So if I'm working down here in this darker section, I can come up here to the lighter section, and you're kind of picking up paint that's lighter, and you can work back and forth without really going back to your palette. So especially with something like this, it's a real nice way to pick up bits, and there we go. Wash. That starts. So actually, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to get a little yellow down first, and actually, I'm forgetting where I'm going on this. Because I kind of want this to cover the gray, I do need to add a little bit of white to it. It dries. It actually dries very fast. It dries faster than acrylic, I've found, which is why I don't put a lot on my paint palettes here, because it has a tendency to kind of dry like crazy, a little too fast. So I work with as little as possible. So let me get this crazy jet contrail in. I just want to get some yellow down, kind of the same way we did the rest of them. And sure enough, it's going to have a little bit of green to it, which actually, that's just what I wanted it to do. This contrail on the back, actually, I'm kind of glad it's doing this. There's always you always had a little bit of green in it, and that's actually going to work in our favor. So I'm actually really jazzed about that. Alrighty, so now I've got it cleared. Let me see if I can get in some more of this yellow here. And I'm going to try to do this just straight up. Pardon my arm in the middle of the screen here in an awkward position. There we go. Going to get some yellow down there. There we go. Yellow and some green. I will be going over this later. All right. Now the rest of the flame, and I just want to block this in the same way I blocked in the blues. Now a little cadmium orange, which I still laugh. This is a color that probably doesn't exist in nature. Well, it does in flowers, but it reminds me of processed cheese. But it's a convenient orange to use between your cadmium yellow and the cadmium red. So there we go. A little cadmium red light. And we're just going to have some fun. We're just going to throw these on there and see if we can get some nice effects with it as we go. I know it's going to act badly with this blue, but we're just going to do our best. So I want to get some orange thrown in. And I'm going pretty thick with this paint. I probably need to water it just a little bit. There we go. But I want it to kind of go in. And I don't mind about the brush strokes because Casein sort of settles down a little bit. There we go. And I'm just going to get these in. It's going to look rough. It's really going to look rough, but that's okay. Grabbing some yellows. It's also going to look pretty muddy, but don't let that freak you out right now. It's there's a method to my madness here. I kind of wanted it to come up a little higher here. I dig throwing red on. It just especially when it's up against this blue. It's fun. But as you can see, I'm pulling up some of the wetter paint beneath it as I go. So I will be I think I wanted it to be kind of a zigzag yellow there, a little more dynamic than that. So come a little bit higher. There we are. I'm kind of just grabbing paint as I go to try to put it in pretty thickly, but it is reacting with the blue underneath it, and just not having as much fun. That's okay. So we will do a quick blend here, and when this settles down a little bit, I'll come back in and get some thicker color in on it. I'm gonna grab. I feel like these areas are dark, but not quite dark enough. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of the Paynes Grey that we used and black. And I'm going to try to push the background just a little bit darker in those corners. Alrighty. So I mixed a little bit of white with my yellow. This is cadmium yellow light. Yes. I'm going to see if this will, yeah, there we go. We're going to get the core hotness of this flame in here, gently as I say. Because I want yellow. I don't want the green. I want yellow down here. I'm just being pretty careful about it, but you think flame. This is some incredibly potent drive that is beyond our understanding. We are mere 21st century humans, and the engineers of this craft know so much more about this sort of thing than we do. And I'm just going to leave those. I get some, there we go. Starting to get a little coverage here with the orange that we weren't getting before. Just trying to do this gently so I don't lift off a lot of it. Fun flame part. Normally I would save this sort of thing to the end, but it's kind of pivotal that I get it in here right now. So as I'm painting, I'm keeping my angle of my brush. At least I'm trying to go in this direction. There we go. That's brightening up the red a bit. Alrighty, so for my ship here, I'm envisioning all these kind of interleaving shapes, and so to do that, I'm going to grab a little bit of titanium white. I'm kind of keeping with my Permasol Blue here for my blue. So we're going to have a little bit of that. Yeah, yes, we all break our own rules in a professional way. That's the definition of it. And for this, I'm also going to want, I've got a nice grayed down yellow called Yellow Ochre. So I'm going to add a little bit of this to it. I want some colors handy because I'm going to be pushing and pulling some detail here, and a little bit of raw umber. Alrighty, here we go. And alrighty. And it's just, I'm just trying to get the paint thinned down enough so it'll play nice with me right now, because I don't want this part to go on too thick. I want that. I should be practicing this off on the side, but I'm not going to do that. And again, I've gone back to my filbert brush, which has a nice rounded bit to it, but also you can turn it to its side and you get some nice nice straight lines. I had kind of a plan in my mind for how I wanted to do this, but as I modify it as I go. There are other times when I would actually draft out the spaceship. Dun, 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 dun. Saving it for later date. Yes. Alrighty. You know, let's see, a little bit of white down below. I don't want to go too white under here because the light's coming in, and I want this underside to be full of some really fun details, but the top of this thing is going to be a little bit more white. And just to bring in something a little different, I'm going to grab some yellow ochre. I'm going to get a little darker area here. And I like bringing in a little bit of a warmer color to it, but I'm lightening it up with some white. And I like adding this on in because presumably at some point there's a star that is probably projecting a warmer tone than this. And it adds a little bit of interest to the ship's hull a little bit. It starts making it read a little bit more real. There we go. So I've got a little bit of the raw umber, which is a darker brown tone, earth tone really, and I'm just kind of trying to judiciously use this. There we go. And drop these in here. And the bottom half of this module. There we go. And I'm just always thinking in terms of, light, dark, trying to figure out where the insets are going to be. And it's one of these spaceships that could be mistaken for a yacht. Bunch of rich billionaire space travelers. They don't deserve yachts. No, actually. There we go. All right. I've already got some nice earth tones here. We want a little touch of this yellow ochre that I had mixed with a little bit of the blue. And I want to kind of come in here and indicate continents with trees. So I'm just going to kind of come in here and do this muddy green. And we're going to get some real nice... There's a giant continent on this planet. And I want to show that by just altering the color. It's not going to be much brighter or darker than what I have on here, and I don't mind that at all, because I'll be coming over to on top of all of this with a cloud layer later. But trying to pay attention to the darkness of the planet itself. I'll have to darken it as I go a little bit further south of the equator here, and just kind of need that a little bit brighter. There we go. We're just going to give some hint of land masses, and maybe this isn't the best brush with a rounded one. It's actually a little bit more. That's all right. So we'll give it some hint of land masses on there, and sunsets, you start getting these fantastic oranges and reds. But that's probably a little too much. This might not actually work the way I wanted it to, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. Your highlighted areas that would normally be, I'm branded up here in the lighter colors. We'll start getting these nice oranges. And I'm just kind of working the background while the ship's getting to a point where I can really start diving into the details on it. So we're going to get to the fun stuff here shortly. There we go. Together. We're moving on into the ship itself. So, and I'm just going to paint in, you've got this wonderful, now these lines were just a little off from my perspective. This is where you get into the fun part, because now you're defining spaces and different planes. So we're going to do a lot of this sort of thing. I'm going to add little shapes and rounds, cuts into the hull, and that's going to help define what the shape of this ship actually is. And I'm working right to left just with my with the straights here for the most part, because that'll help me lay in some of the main key lines here. Alrighty. There we go. Now this, actually a good portion of this back end is going to be dark. We're basically going to be looking at this, it has these gigantic flames coming out of the back of it. So really going to be doing is, it's like it's going to be washing out whatever the camera view is of this. I'm just going to add, there we go. And we will see, I'll leave some of the oranges and other colors that I had in here, but there's a little bit of hardware coming out that's in front of this flame. And we're going to paint that in. I'm just going to let this blend with the orange a little bit. That's on there. It's going to pick up some, and that's okay. There we go. Every one of these little cutaways is going to add to the scale, the sense of scale on the ship itself. I feel like this needs to have a big cut right on in there. I've got the red and the yellow there. I'm going to grab some of my red. And I'm going to come back into this and swoop in as if this is a reflective cover. So I want to get some red and a little bit of that yellow ochre to indicate like a reflection in there. There we go. And again, a little bit of yellow ochre right up in here. Since I already carried over some of that red, we're going to get some indication of maybe there's a reflective piece in there. All right. I have basically a combination of that red and that yellow ochre, so it's a little bit of an orange. And so I'm going to come back in on my black and just wheedle in some detail in here just to give it a little bit in that black that I just put in. It'll give it some interest. Okay, so you got to figure this has a gigantic flame coming out of the back of it, so it's going to be casting light onto these dark areas. So I'm using the black and I'm painting color over black. In theory, I should be doing a touch of white in this paint to make it a little bit more opaque, but I'm just gonna work it as it is right here and just try to wheedle in some details inside the ship itself. There we go. And that's going to work on a couple of levels. It's going to be almost a reflection of this crazy flame off the top. And just a hint of that color in the so we're kind of to the fun part, you know. I feel like most paintings, the start of them is dreadfully boring. Even on one that you're 100% excited on, sometimes just getting the base colors in just isn't really going to do it. You want to kind of get to that there's a fun part, and this is the fun part, you know. So now, just going to kind of take advantage of the orange that I have on this and get this. I love the idea of these gigantic ships having these radio towers or instrument towers on them. If you've ever seen, like, say, a naval aircraft carrier or older battleships, they have so much stuff on them. It's intimidating. Sorry, it's intimidating to look at. So I love having those on there. Alrighty, so now I've got kind of I've got sort of a lighter color again, and I want to kind of go back in and do some fun things with the dark spaces here a little bit. And I'm finding that I kind of think I'm going to have to go to a smaller brush. Yike. So now I got a thinner brush, and I'm trying to go into some of these dark detail areas to add just some little hint of color. Maybe there's windows in here. Maybe we're seeing little lights and things. But I have a little touch of I have some white in here and a little touch of a touch of red. I'm tempted to go in and grab maybe a little green, but I don't want to do a lot of it. I think green is the one color that is going to be the rarest on this. But I also, since it's a lighter color, want to add some real fine elements coming off the front here. And this side. And I want to maybe finesse these a little bit. There we go. Oh yeah, that's working. Touch more red there. Alrighty. There we go. Hopefully my head wasn't in front of all of that. And since I've got red, this helps sell it. When you actually have red stripes, we are going to do some red stripes and some call letters on the hull, just straight onto the hull here. There we go. A little bit more red there. There we go. I'm going to go just straight white, and I'm going to try to pull out some highlights on here. There we go. The reason why this is working is, in this particular painting, the thing that has the whitest whites and the blackest blacks is this spaceship. And that is helping push it off of the background. And I'm trying to keep I keep ending up getting getting my fingers wet, and I don't really want to do that. I don't really have a good bridge to work with. A bridge is like in pool, something you can use to support your hand over a wet painting, and there we go. And it suffers for it a little bit. I'm just trying to take some white and brighten some of these areas up just a little bit. And it's just going straight white here. And getting in on the highlights of some of these edges in the shadows here will help punch that up. There we go. And I noticed that I know it's all been a retrospective of Berkey and his painting styles, but there are a number of his paintings that are unfinished, and some were sold at auction, and there's some really good photos of them. But I noticed that he does the same kind of push and pull with a lot of his colors. So some are underpainted, And it's been fascinating. I've probably studied him way too much for my own good. We're going to do the spatter effect, but I don't want the spatter effect to go on just everything. So I'm going to lay down some paper towels here and do this a section at a time. So we're going to start with the top part of the painting here first. And I'm just going to throw on some stars. Throw on some stars. There we go. Very carefully, I will move my cloth there. Actually, I think I'm going to do, it's a paper towel. Do this, and we're going to get the area by the moons. And it's okay if I go over the moons. That'll be okay. Not going to worry about that too much. All right. So for the hero stars, I'm just going to dot in some bigger stars here. And my paint's a little bit, there we go. I had thought about doing a secondary ship down in this area, but I think for now I'm going to leave it just with the one. Okay. I gotta tell you, it's a lot easier to do a star field in Photoshop than it is doing this. But we're gonna make that smudge that I put on my finger work for me. That's gonna be another little nebula area. So happy accidents for the win. All right. I come down here to the bottom and give that the signature. Awesome. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified when I upload a new video. Also, catch my weekly stream over on Twitch every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Thank you.